All right, guys, we are back for another episode of the On Call Empath, and today I am super excited. I feel like I have like a celebrity on my podcast. I someone I look up to. Her name is Freya Mortensen. She's done so many things in the past, just to name a few, like probation officer, CFL cheerleader, empath coach. I can go on, but Freya, it's an honor to have you on my podcast. Thank you so much for coming on my show.
Raj, it's an honor of mine as well.
Absolutely. The minute we had that conversation from empath to empath, I felt so much at ease. It was like literally like within seconds. I'm like, okay, I can be myself. I can take down all my anxieties. You got everything that I was saying, and so if you can kind of explain and just tell the audience who you are, what you do, and what you're up to.
Wow, who I am. Such like, who are you? Who are you anyway?
Who are you?
I'm so many things. But at the end of the day, I'm Freya. And yeah, like, I don't know, man. I'm kind of stumped to say who I am, but because I'm always evolving, like I'm
Yeah.
constantly evolving, but where I come from, I don't know how much sort of little background you want me to give here, but
Whatever you feel comfortable with. I know like 350,000 people know who you are on TikTok. So
yeah. And so a lot of them, and maybe some of them don't know that, for 20 years I was a probation officer. And for a lot of people, that's like, wow, what is that job all about? And, I met with one of my former colleagues last night for dinner, and she's only 5 years into the job. But before I left, I was mentoring her. And, it's like, this is really a job of compassion. It's really what it comes down to, dealing with homeless people, people with mental health, a lot of domestic violence cases, a lot of victim issues. And it comes down to compassion. So it was kind of like my training ground. I was telling her, it's
yeah.
like I learned all the tools, I learned all the skills in those 20 years, started that job when I was 23 years old. I was the
Wow.
youngest in that office. I was probably one of the youngest probation officers in my field at the time.
Right.
And yeah, and so it was a great training ground to learn a lot of professional development took place there, and that natural skill of compassion and empathy that I brought to that role.
Yeah.
That then a few years ago I decided, hey, we're going to go out into the world and we're going to expand this compassion and this empathy to a broader audience. And I took this leap of faith and I quit my job of 20 years with a pension and benefits. I mean,
Wow.
I will still get a little bit of a pension when I'm 65. Still got, 20 years to wait for that. Um, and I, sold my house so I could have a cushion of income to support me on this journey. That's been, wow, it's been super awesome. Just branching out and getting
Mm.
coaches and mentors so that I can coach and mentor other people, specifically empathic
Empaths.
people is my
Yeah.
specialty.
And that's why I thought it was so appropriate that you were representing and coming on this podcast. We've got a lot of empaths tuning in. We have a lot of highly sensitive people, and just the average person that's just trying to make sense of this crazy world we live in with COVID and all the crap that we see on TV with celebrities like yelling at each other and slapping each other and all this negativity that kind of like affects my energy. So I just try to shut it out. But before we get into all that, why don't we just start with empaths? Like, what, in your definition, what is an empath? Like, what do you have to be considered like, I guess, identify with an empath? Because you coach so many people. So I'm curious what your definition is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a great question, because let's just start off with that, right? What is an empath? Are you one? How do you know? And, one of the biggest traits is the traits of the emotional empath.
Hmm.
And the emotional empath feels the emotions and the energy of others as if it were your own. And so that's where that big difference between somebody who just feels empathy, I can understand how you're feeling. I know what that feels like. But the empath takes it a step further to not only do I know what that feels like, but I actually feel what you're feeling in my own body, to the point where I may have difficulty deciphering between what's mine and what's yours.
Yeah. Very, very good description. Um, Now, with empaths, obviously, it comes with a lot of responsibility. Some people think it's a curse. Some people could use it as a superpower, but there's no mistake about it. We do have, some have codependency issues. Others have problems with healthy boundaries and people pleasing, highly sensitive to certain things. They could be on a spectrum, but in your profession and what you do, what do you see the most, especially with healthy boundaries? Why is that such a big issue for empaths across the globe? What that seems to be the number one thing that pops up, especially when I coach as well. Feel like every person has that issue that they're trying to work on.
Yeah. And it's so multi-layered too, Raj, because it begins from the point when you're born, right? And we have codependent relationships with our parents
Hmm.
who have unhealthy boundaries with us and are not respecting our emotional needs. And so the line gets crossed, that boundary gets crossed very early on, where we're taught, I'm responsible for your feelings.
Yeah.
You've made me upset. It's your responsibility to make me feel better. And so those lines get cloudy. But just in general, as an empathic person, you have these energetic boundaries. You have your boundaries with your emotions. You have even those physical boundaries that, because you're so in tune to your environment, you're so in tune with everything
Right.
that you're soaking it up. A lot of people say an empath is like an emotional sponge, soaking it all up there. And so it's difficult for us because we want to be able to fix other people. We want to be able to, jump in there and make people feel better. But that's where that crossing that boundary starts, where it's not our responsibility to do that. But we feel things so intensely. They're like, oh, in order for me to feel better, I need for you to feel better so that I can feel better. That whole push and pull dynamic because of that lack of emotional boundary.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it's almost like we want this validation from others in order to feel complete. And I spoke to so many people. I've had a lot of people on this podcast that are empaths that would say they would be workaholics, or they'd be stuck in a relationship trying to please their partner, but no matter what they did, it just would never be enough, and they would just burn out. Um, in your opinion, what is the biggest thing lacking as far as when it comes to empaths?
Ooh, there's nothing lacking. We never want to associate ourselves with a sense of lack,
Hmm.
right? But I think that if we were going to use that word though, what could be developed more in empathic people is acceptance, self-acceptance, self-compassion, because our focus is always so outward and on the external,
Sure.
to the point where we forget about what's going on inside of us. What about our feelings and our needs? because over the course of time, we've been taught that our feelings and our needs don't matter. Other people matter more than we do. Other people's needs matter more. And if you are tending to your own needs, that's selfish. Don't do
Oh
that.
yeah, totally. Yes, and that's what I see across the board. And the just kind of switching gears here, just kind of off that is I feel like a lot of empaths try to target narcissists in particular. So I wanted to kind of pick your brain on that, and if you can kind of explain, because there's a lot of empaths that are listening right now that may be living with a narcissist, or um no has been in a relationship with a narcissist, but then they keep going back into this cycle where they keep going back to that same type of abusive person.
Yeah.
So what would you say to the empaths that are listening right now is why do we keep doing that? Why do we keep looking for these people that are going to use and abuse us? It's not like we like it. It's just something that we just keeps getting sucked into.
Yeah. It's a learned behavior. It's what
Mm.
we're used to. We probably had a parent that was that
Yeah.
way. So we're coming back to the parents again.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're dating
Like,
your mom or your dad.
you know, I mean, a lot of people will comment on my videos and be like, oh, I wish they taught this in school. Like, no, these are things that need to be taught in the home. Okay. There's a huge responsibility that starts there. Um, and it goes on generationally too. Like we can say, oh, look at your parents, but look at your parents' parents, and then look at their parents. So it's about how do we stop this cycle, right?
Mhm.
And this term narcissist, I mean, there's narcissistic traits that we all have, and then there's the diagnosis of the narcissistic personality disorder. But I think that for empathic people with the serious lack of boundaries, and because we're so in tune to other people and seeking validation externally, those stages of the cycle of narcissistic abuse begins with that first stage of idealization, where you are put up on a pedestal, where you are celebrated, you are just just given all sorts of compliments, and wow, I've never met anyone like you, you're so special. And it's like, wow, this person really sees me. Interesting, wow, this person. And for the people who have narcissistic traits, they know how to sometimes be very much like a chameleon,
Mhm.
and they can kind of associate with you on your level and pick up the things that you like and find commonalities. I mean, we get sucked into those things. And plus, sometimes people with narcissistic traits are a little bit presenting with a need for help. Maybe they're struggling with addiction. Maybe they're struggling with their other relationships. And so the empath wants to go in there and help them and get them on the right path and say, oh, well, with my love, maybe I'll make you feel better and maybe you'll change. And we're just getting caught up in that trap because we don't have those boundaries in place to recognize that it's not my responsibility to help people. So there's
Yeah.
a few things that are going on, right? With that, being put up on a pedestal, being seen by somebody who
Sure.
really admires you, and then that other aspect of, oh, I
Mhm.
can help this person, and together, we can be one.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense. A lot of people that I talk to feel like they're just too sensitive. They may not identify as being an empath, and there's a lot of people like that. They're just label themselves as, their nervous system is a little dysregulated from abuse, or they're highly addicted. They get these addictive qualities as they get older, and then they get in relationships with narcissists. Um, so I want to like ask you about this subject because I found it fascinating, and it's not so much like afterlife stuff, but do you think like before we even come into this experience of this world that we are put on here to learn a lesson, um, and grow, like previously before coming into this planet and doing our work and learning how to love ourselves and set boundaries. Because I feel like, I mean, I've talked to many people, and they would say like, yeah, everything is already kind of written. Like, these are your parents. This is what you're going to get, and you have to maneuver this life and learn your lesson. Now, I'm not like 100% sold on like the afterlife and karma, but I do believe that there is something there that we are given at the beginning of this life, and until we get it right, we're just going to keep doing the same thing over. It doesn't mean we're going to come back maybe next life and, trying to fix it, but thankfully this podcast is a big part of it, because this is who I am, this is my identity, this is something that I want to do and have a lot of passion for, is to help other people and get great people like you on here to send that message that you guys are not alone. And I keep saying that you guys are not alone, but that's what I feel like I'm here for. I can't speak for anyone else. But what is your take on that? Do you think that there is something there, like before we even make our journey through this life, that we have to get through these obstacles in order to get to, I don't know, bliss or true happiness and self-actualization?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on all of that, on all of that. And I love these like deeply spiritual questions, because I think that from whatever past life we had, I like and I think I was mentioning this to you before, Raj. I wasn't raised with any sort of religion. And
Mhm.
so my mom gave me that freedom to just decide how the world works on my own and take from whatever religions are out there to formulate my own. And I think that we're always this energy that's taking place in a physical body. And perhaps before I came into this physical body, I had a soul mission to carry out. And it's still continuing because I'm still here in this
Yeah.
physical body. And what is it that I need to still learn, or I need to still offer this physical realm? And that comes through, like you said, some of these things are already written. You choose your parents, as much as people do not like to hear that. What do you mean I choose my parents? I choose these people. Yeah, I know it sounds crazy, but I think we do. And it's kind of that whole notion of, it's not about that things are happening to you,
Hmm.
having this victim mode. Things are happening for you. Things are always happening for us to learn from. It's just your ability to recognize that in each thing that happens to you, good or not so good, there's a lesson to learn there. And do you have your eyes open to it?
Hmm.
Because if you don't, then it's going to keep repeating itself. Like
Yeah.
you're saying, when you keep doing the same thing over and over,
Yeah.
expecting a different result, Einstein says that's the definition of
Yeah.
insanity.
So for those that are listening right now on this podcast episode, if I could just kind of like assume, but I'm just gonna give you a question. It's like, okay, so I was dealt with like abuse and trauma, and I'm an empath, and I'm struggling with finances. Um, I have kids, and I'm a single parent. Life is really tough for me right now.
Mm.
Um, I did not ask for this. I did not ask for my, to have these parents. Um, and I feel like that's the wrong questions to ask, because if I turn that around on myself and I said, if I didn't have all those obstacles, like I would never be here in front of you. I would never have this podcast. I would never kind of be thinking the way I am, that things are happening to me or for me. Or before, it used to be a mindset is, why is this happening? I'm trying to run away from it. Like, I don't want to deal with it. Just kind of in that in that mindset of, why is it happening to me only?
Yeah.
But then when I switched that little, narrative in my head that says like it's the journey, you're going to have peaks and valleys. It's going to be ups and downs, but you're still going to get to where you need to go. I don't know if that makes sense, but do you follow me a little bit?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, this is the course that you have to take based on your past choices. And it's cool if somebody wants to come and say, you know what, I don't subscribe to any of that,
Yeah.
you know, uh, that's fine. That's cool. That's where you're at right now. And I respect that.
Mhm.
You know, you're feeling that way, that life sucks and life
Yeah.
is hard and nothing's ever going for you. And no
Right.
matter how hard you try, things just keep getting worse. Okay, that's your current reality right now. All right, I can meet you there. But I can also, maybe encourage you to, come into my 8-week program and let's see how we can shake
Yeah.
that up and you can create a different reality for yourself.
That that's very interesting. I mean, you use the word reality. Can we bend reality? Can we shift it? Not so much of the law of attraction thing, but like more of the more things that we focus on, the more closer we'll get to that. Do you believe in that statement? Like what we focus on and think and put in our heads over and over again, we're more likely to get that, good or bad, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, 100%. It's what you give your energy to, what you're focusing on, you're going to get more of that. It's like if I'm always telling my kid all the things she's doing wrong and cut that out and stop being this way and just focusing on all the negative aspects, telling her all the things that I don't want her to do, she's going to keep doing all those things versus me focusing on her positive aspects and focusing on the things that I would like to see her doing instead of the things that I don't want. Right? It's like when you focus on what you do want, you get more of that. When you focus on the things that you don't want, you get
You
more
get
of
more
that
of that
also.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. Where your attention goes, your energy flows, right?
And that goes with money, that goes with relationships, that goes with just about anything in life. I that's how I feel. I didn't find that out until the tail end, like as I got older, because I was always like, okay, I'm not going to think about that now. But I started obsessing over it, and then I'm just like, I'll deal with it when it comes. But now it's more the fact of the matter is I think about like as if it's already happened. I'm acting as it's happened. I'm thinking about it. I'm changing the narratives. I'm using different words when I speak it. I believe when you say it out loud, when the words come out of your mouth, those are powerful. Those are powerful than saying, "Oh, I'm excuse my language, I'm a piece of shit." Well, guess what? You're gonna feel like that. But if you're saying positive things, I don't know if you saw the rice experiment on YouTube where they had 2 jars. One jar had, like, white rice and the other one had the same thing. They labeled it, and they
Mm,
put them on 2 separate side of the room, and every day, like, the person would, like, scream and yell and talk down to this little jar. It's really
yeah.
weird,
No,
and then
yeah.
and then it just, like, got really black and just moldy, and the other one
Yep.
was good enough to eat after like a month. So
Yep.
I can't explain it. Like it is powerful what you guys say and what you guys think.
For sure. Yeah, there's a Japanese
Yeah.
scientist, Dr. Emoto. He conducted a similar experiment, but with water. And he had them labeled like, I hate you, I love you. One he played beautiful classical music to, another one he played like thrash, heavy, hard metal to, you know? And then how they crystallized.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you think about it, our bodies are made up of like 70-80% water. Our cells are listening to all of those
Everything,
messages. Yeah.
every little cell. And so imagine a child growing up, and let's just use that water analogy. They're getting put down, they've gone through trauma. What do you think is going to happen when they get into adulthood? That water is going to be black and dark unless they filter it out, until they maybe come to see someone like yourself, take that 8-week course and really open their mind, or they listen to podcasts and they start to really dig into why they are feeling the way they are, and just put the pieces together, then rather than just tuning out, going into addictions, and saying that this is never going to change for me, this is just how I am.
Yeah.
I refuse to accept that. And then when I started to look into other directions, things started to change personally for me. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that are hurting,
Hmm.
especially with COVID. You know, we're not in the best state right now with everything that's going on with the economy and politics and all this crap. Always negative energy that we see on television, and all these like materialistic stuff on Netflix and all these shows. And I don't think it's very helpful for our overall growth and our energy. I'm speaking for empaths and highly sensitive, because we absorb all that.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, as empathic people, we're highly sensitive to all of these things that are going on, and we're storing all of that trauma in our body, and we're not able to tap into our gift, our
Mm,
intuitive gift, our clair senses,
mhm.
that is the gift of the empath. We're
Yeah.
so creative and we're such great problem solvers, and we have all of these amazing gifts, but how that manifests over time in the body, all that negativity and all that toxic crap that we're picking up in our environments, manifests in our body as anxiety and depression and chronic illness, chronic pain and autoimmune disorders, because we really got to be able to flush all that out. We got to
Hmm.
detox our system so that we can tap into our gift. Otherwise, we're walking around with serious trauma responses going on.
Yeah. So, wrapping up here, I want to give you kind of like the last word, and maybe give a couple solutions to anybody that might be at that spot in their life where they've tried everything. They consider, maybe not, they're not being an empath, but they do really embrace the fact that they've been abused or been traumatized, or maybe they're trapped with a narcissist and they're having boundary issues. What can you leave us all with, the listeners, that they'll remember, that's something they can kind of do to get the ball rolling, especially coming from you? I think it would hold a lot of weight, because the work that you do is truly amazing. And I think if it's working for all those people that you help, I'm sure like the people that are listening would love to take your advice.
Yeah. Yeah, Raj, I would have to say to those people to start knowing that you matter. Okay. Number one, you matter. And start setting those personal boundaries for yourself, right? Start putting yourself first. Start tending to your needs. And it's kind of like, what am I allowing myself to consume? Okay. What are the boundaries that I have with what I'm consuming in terms of media, in terms of food, in terms of my environment, in terms of people? And start to see that as an opportunity for how can I cleanse and clear this energy that I'm so sensitive to, so that I can start to get into that healing process. I need to start doing some cleansing and clearing of what I'm consuming so that I can get into that space, start healing my very sensitive system and sensitive soul, and showing myself some compassion. And that's going to increase my confidence. And when I've increased my confidence, then I'm even more likely and more skilled and more apt to then set boundaries with other people. And when I've extended myself there, then I'm starting to create healthy relationships. But I got to create that healthy relationship with myself first through my own healthy boundaries. And then I can extend those to other people, because when you have healthy boundaries, that equals healthy relationships.
Beautifully said. I couldn't have said it better, guys. Definitely follow her on Instagram. She's got 350,000 followers on TikTok. She's had celebrities on her IG: Sharon Stone, Deborah Messing. She's the real deal, so definitely check her out. And before we leave, can you just tell us what you're up to and anything that you will not to leave, where we can find you for all the audience members to contact you?
Yeah. So, I've got a great website. It's called FreyaMortensen.com. And on there, it'll give you an overview of the program that I have, and you can go ahead and book a call and get the ball rolling towards this self-compassion journey. And then as well, I've got a Facebook group that's called the High Vibe Empath. And over there, I share a lot of free information. And the members of that Facebook group are the first people to get access to the workshops that I run. Yeah, those are the two main things that I have going on right now. More to come, of
Mm.
course, but that's where we're at.
Well, Freya, it's been an honor, and I just want to let you know I do want you back in the future, and you're always welcome to participate in any of my podcasts. So I would love to have you back if you're open to it.
Yeah, I would love to, Rush. We'll see
All
you
right.
tomorrow.
We'll do this every day, right? All right, guys, that does it for this special episode of the On Call Empath. Stay tuned for the next episode. And I got a lot more guests coming on this month, and they are going to be high profile guests, and you do not want to miss it. With that said, thank you for tuning in, and we are out.